Hello everybody, my name is Gadget122 and welcome back to Pokémon Fire Red. Last time, we went into Pewter City, challenged the gym leader Brock, and got our first gym badge, the Boulder Badge. Then we explored Route 3, bought a whole bunch of trainers, got a couple new Pokemon, including a new addition to our team in the form of Kaiser the Nidoran. And now we find ourselves on Route 4, just outside of Mount Moon. So now that we're at the Poké Center just outside, let's talk to some people. If I can talk to this guy. Okay, set 6 Pokeballs on my belt. Yeah, that'll do it. At most, you can have 6 Pokemon with you. Team Rocket attacks cerulean citizens. Not a day goes by without Team Rocket being in the news. It's the second mention we've heard of Team Rocket. What's this guy reading? It's a newspaper. Well, great. Sometimes you'll have too many Pokemon with you to add any more. In that case, you should just store some using any PC. Yes, we've seen that before in a previous episode. But before we continue on, let's talk to this guy here. Hello there, laddie. Have I got a deal just for you? I'll let you have a secret Pokemon, a Magikarp, for just 500 Poke. So, you'll buy it, am I right? Sure. Griffin paid outrageous sum of 500 to get a Magikarp. Do I want to give a nickname? No. Magikarp was transferred to someone's PC. Now, let's take a look at what exactly it is that we got our hands on here, because, yeah, and there it is. Okay, let's just get this out of the way. Magikarp is widely considered to be one of the weakest Pokemon ever. Do I consider it the absolute weakest? No, I do not consider it the absolute weakest. We'll get to that when we get to that. But Magikarp is definitely down there, unfortunately. It may seem like, oh, it's a water type, so you can learn water type moves. No. First of all, starting off, it only knows Splash. What does Splash do? The user just flops and splashes around without having any effect. It does not do anything at all. It just wastes a turn, it accomplishes nothing. Magikarp's stats are incredibly mediocre, and the only moves that it will really learn leveling up are pretty much Splash and Tackle. It can learn Flail, but no. Anyway, on the plus side, there is a positive to this. Because while Magikarp can learn only 3 moves, once you level it up to level 20 successfully, you get an amazing Pokemon in the form of Gyarados. Gyarados gets a flying subtype, making it the first water flying type that we have available to us. It has excellent stats and a really strong physical attack stat. But Gyarados does have a couple problems. First of all, the water flying type, while it does... How do I put this? While it does lose its weakness to grass by becoming a flying type, it is now weak to rock type and now quad weak to electric type attacks. Plus, Gyarados, while it does learn some good moves leveling up, is not able to take proper advantage of its stats. In this game, whether a move is considered physical or special is determined by the type of move and not necessarily the inherent nature of an individual move. So in this case, Gyarados will only be able to use water type moves that are special. There's no such thing as a physical water type move in this game. But it does learn some pretty good stuff, and even though I do not consider it the absolute best water type, it's still pretty powerful. So if you want to use this Magikarp, you can. You're just going to have to do a lot of switch training because Magikarp is completely incapable of fighting on its own. Am I going to be using this? No! I have a good water Pokemon in the form of Gullywash. And I will take my Gullywash, and I will see you later, Magikarp. Now, before we go into Mount Moon, I actually need to go back and do some shopping, so I'm going to cut ahead now. Alright, I've done my shopping, and now we're going to continue on into the next area, which is Mount Moon. There's our tunnel entrance. Okay, now, as far as Mount Moon is concerned, there are several new Pokemon that we can catch in here, and there are a lot of trainers to fight in here. So I'm going to kind of do what I did last time, and I'm going to do a bit of a speed up while I talk about the new Pokemon that we can find in here. Because there's a lot to talk about and a lot to unpack. So let's get right to it. Well, good enough place to start, I suppose. First of all, obviously we can see here is Zubat. Zubat, as you can probably tell just by its infamous nature, it is the most common Pokemon that you will find in caves. Just about every cave you can find, Zubat will be in there, or one of its evolved forms will be in there. Now, speaking of evolved forms, that is something that we need to talk about. Zubat is normally a Pokemon that I would recommend highly, because Zubat can evolve into the all-powerful Crobat, which has pretty good stats all around, is incredibly fast, and is generally just very helpful for you and your team. However, there is something that we need to talk about when it comes to Zubat. Zubat is a first case of many Pokemon that we're going to see where their full potential will not be fully realized in this game, or at least not yet. As I'm sure you know, there are several Pokemon in Gen 1 that were given evolutions in Generation 2, and Zubat is no exception. Crobat was introduced in Generation 2. However, when the developers were making this particular game, they wanted to keep the authenticity of the Gen 1 experience present, and have made it so that several Pokemon that normally would be able to evolve in this game are not capable of evolving until the very end of the main story. So instead of Crobat, during the main story, what you're going to be getting instead of Zubat is Golbat, which, to be fair, Golbat isn't half bad, but Golbat, for one thing, is not as good as Crobat, and it will struggle to keep up in the long run. Maybe not at first, but against some of the more powerful trainers in the region, you're going to find Golbat is just going to be lacking in stats. But if you don't mind using Golbat, then that's fine. But keep in mind, Zubat will be available in later caves, so if you don't want to get one right now, or at least not use one right now, it's completely fine. But to be fair, Zubat will become a lot better once it actually learns Wing Attack. Next up, Geodude. Geodude, we saw Geodude in Brock's gym. It's a first strike type Pokemon that we can get, and it actually gets some pretty powerful attacks early on. And as a result of that, it's very easy to train. I personally have played through this game multiple times using almost nothing but Geodude and its evolved form Graveler, because as you're going to see in this game, there are a lot of Pokemon that ground types just do an excellent job against. And Geodude is definitely among the best ones. And the really cool thing about Geodude is that his whole concept has seldom been attempted to be recreated. While there have been a couple of attempts here and there throughout the generations, Geodude is just so consistently good that it really just doesn't need to be replaced. I think it's only been attempted to be redone a couple of times throughout the entire series. However, there is one big caveat about Geodude that you need to keep in mind. Its evolutions. While it does get excellent moves leveling up, and it is very easy to raise, Geodude cannot fully evolve into its final form Golem unless you have the ability to trade it. You have to trade a Graveler to another trainer and then essentially trade it back to you so that way you can get Golem. If you don't have the ability to trade, it's a lot more difficult for me to recommend this Pokemon. Even though it can work, it may struggle in the long run. Now, let's talk about Pokemon that, unfortunately, it does not get better from here. The next Pokemon that you can find in here is Paris. Legends Arceus players will know that this Pokemon is to be feared, as it will pursue you to absolutely no end. And it is a terrifying Pokemon in Legends Arceus for that reason. However, realistically, Paris is probably the worst thing that you're going to find in here. Honestly, even worse than Zubat, if I'm being frank with you. While Paris does have its uses, the biggest problem with Paris is its typing. Grass and Bug is a terrible type defensively. And the main thing about it being so bad is that it has two quad weaknesses. It is weak to both fire and flying. Charizard is the absolute bane of his existence because of that. Not only that, it does not get very good moves leveling up. Its stats are mediocre at best when it fully evolves. And it's just not a great Pokemon. But there are a couple of things about it that I can at least say are relatively positive. First of all, it's one of the only Pokemon that gets the move Spore. In fact, I believe in this generation, it's the only Pokemon that gets it. Spore is a 100% accurate move that causes the opponent to fall asleep. So if you want to use that to make your opponents fall asleep, you can do that, but there are just better ways to make your opponents fall asleep. Or just use better Pokemon in general. The actual thing I can recommend about Paris, unironically, aside from catching it to complete the Pokedex, you do want to consider trying to get a few Paris because some of them might be holding a certain item called a tiny mushroom or a big mushroom. These items don't have any particular value, at least not during the main story, but much later, they will be very, very helpful. So at least try to get a big mushroom if nothing else. Oh, and don't worry if you don't get a Paris during a Mount Moon. There will be other opportunities to get Paris later on. Congratulations! Your Kaiser has evolved into Nidorino. This is awesome. We already have an evolved Pokemon. With that, Nidorino changes its everything. It gets better stats, and this is what its moveset is looking like. During the montage, it gained a double kick, a fighting type move that hits twice. Pretty useful stuff. Now, if you'll excuse me, we're going to continue the montage while I finish up the trainers in this room. Now, let's talk about the next Pokemon. Clefairy is the last new Pokemon that you can catch here. Clefairy is pretty much Jigglypuff if it were good. While it does not have the absolute best stats in the world, it does learn some really good moves leveling up, and actually does learn pretty good moves through breeding, although that's not going to be an option for a very long time. Like Wigglytuff, Clefairy's evolved form Clefable has pretty good stats, but also a great compatibility with a lot of TNs. But also like Wigglytuff, once Clefairy evolves into Clefable, it's not going to learn any moves via level up. So if you want Clefairy to get really good, you're gonna have to work at it for a bit. Either that, or you need to plan ahead and figure out exactly what TMs you want Clefairy to learn, because unlike in later generations where you can either get new copies of TMs or TMs are of infinite use, and I don't understand why in Gen 8 and later they just got rid of that function. TMs in this game are not infinite use, and they are very finite in most cases. So if you want to teach Pokemon TM moves, you're gonna need to plan ahead very carefully. As far as when I would recommend evolving Clefairy, if you want to get the absolute most out of it, is to work at it until you get it to level 45. Once it gets to level 45, it'll learn an extremely powerful move called Meteor Mash, a 100 power steel type attack with the chance to increase its attack. It's basically Metal Claw on Charmander, except twice as good, so it can be helpful. Also bear in mind that in this game, Fairy type does not exist. So even though it clearly is Fairy in the name, Clefairy is a normal type in this game. Congratulations, your Gulliwash has evolved into Wartortle! Fantastic. So now that the musical montage has been cut short, let's go over here. And we found a Moonstone. Now, as I said before, Moonstone can be used to evolve several Pokemon that we have already encountered on our journey. And as such, I'm going to use it straight away. There's literally no point in waiting on this. So we're going to evolve our Kaiser a second time in one episode in space of probably less than a minute for you guys. But yeah, Kaiser is evolving again. And like that, Kaiser has gotten all the way to Nidoking, its final form. Started off as a little Nidoran at the beginning of this episode. Now it's a big old Nidoking. So now its stats are even better than before. Now, I've taken care of all the trainers on this area, but you'll probably notice that there were a handful of ladders that go down. So I think what we're gonna do is I'm gonna cut back, I'm gonna go heal, and then we're gonna go explore the ladders, because the ladders lead to some underground chambers that not only lead to more trainer battles, but also lead to some more items and general progress with the area. So I'll be right back. Okay, so now that we're all refreshed and ready to continue on to the next areas, I wanted to just take a moment to show the Pokemon that are in my party now. These are the Pokemon that I caught on the main floor during the montage. So we have Zubat, Geodude, and Paris. I've already talked about these guys in detail, but there's only one Pokemon that we are missing, but we're gonna need to go to some of the lower floors if we want to address those. So now we're gonna get interrupted by a wild Pokemon, and we are going to go to the lower sections of Mount Moon. All right, now that we have trekked through several wild Pokemon, let's check this first passage. The passages of Mount Moon are always a little narrow compared to others, but don't let things disorient you too much. Oh, who are you, guy? You look new. We, Team Rocket, are Pokemon gangsters. We strike fear with our strength. Oh, so these are the Team Rocket guys that we saw. Come on, as if I don't know who Team Rocket is. So, this guy's using a Sandshrew. Well, a perfect opponent against our newly evolved Gullywash. One shot, my guy. These guys have nothing on us. This would also be a good opportunity to show off Kaiser's new strength. Look at that imposing sprite there. He is ready to rumble. And fortunately, he's got the kicks to do it. Double kick, that is. One shot again. Even took the time to explain it was one shot. Man, all of my Pokemon are getting a good opportunity to show their stuff. Even though Raitoshi's not going to be particularly helpful in some cases, the Team Rocket Grunts do typically have a Zubat or a Golbat, so Raitoshi will always be useful when handling those. It ain't quite one shot, but like I mentioned in the bio, Zubat is pretty weak, especially early on, so shouldn't have too much trouble. I blew it! And like that, got more money from the Team Rocket Grunt, and it looks like there's an item over here that we can take for ourselves. And by that, I mean a wild Pokemon encounter. We found one star piece. Guess this would be a good opportunity to go over the items that I got during the montage. So we got a Paralysis Heal. Spray type medicine heals Pokemon from paralysis. Pretty straightforward. Rare Candy. As the name implies, relatively rare item. It raises the level of a Pokemon by 1. So definitely worth your time to get. Escape Rope. Long durable rope used to escape instantly from a cave or a dungeon. This will be very useful for much more difficult dungeons later on. And Star Piece, which is what we just got. Shard Pretty Gem that sparkles in a red color. It can be sold at a high price. It's just a high rate sell item. So nothing more to it. See you later, guy. All right, the next ladder that we need to go through is right here. Well, we don't need to go through it, but I recommend that you go through it. We have another Team Rocket Grunt here. We're pulling a big job here. Get lost, kid. Now, the Team Rocket Grunt would like to battle. He's going to start with a Zubat. That's perfectly fine. I don't mind, because Gullywash is here to wash all of our problems away. I got a million puns. Supersonic doesn't really do anything, or at least as long as it doesn't hit. pretty unlikely to hit. It only has 55% accuracy. And like that, Gullywash has grown to level 17. Ekans. We've encountered Ekans previously, but I never really went over things in detail. I'm not going to talk about Ekans quite yet because we can't really talk about it. Well, we can't really catch it yet. But big thing to know about Ekans is that most of the time it will have the ability to Intimidate. It's one of the best abilities in the game that lowers the attack of the opposing Pokemon as soon as it's brought out. So, pretty helpful. We definitely want to deal with this quickly because I do not want Raitoshi to get poisoned. So I think just out of an abundance of caution, we're going to use Quick Attack just to deal with it quickly. Thank you. And like that, Team Rocket Grunt number 2 is dealt with. Now, I believe, yes, if you talk with this rock, you get an ether. Very nice. God bless, every time with the items. All right, we got TM46, Thief. To be a time to go over our TM case. That'll allow us to hold TMs. One of the TMs that I found early in the dungeon was TM09 Bullet Seed. I don't think any of us can use this. Oh, Paris can, that makes sense. But Bullet Seed, it's pretty weak, but it does hit multiple times, so be helpful. Rock Tomb, boulders hurl the foe. We didn't really get to see it, but it lowers the foe's speed if it hits. We'll be saving this for later. And then Thief, a dark type move, first of its kind available to us. An attack that may take the foe's held item if the user isn't holding one. This can be useful for certain situations, and as such, I'm gonna save it for later. Alright, so now we've gotten that taken care of, let's go down this third one and actually make some progress in the dungeon. We're getting relatively close to the end, but we still have a little ways to go. That's where we just were earlier. And here we can find a revive. And we have another Rocket Grunt to deal with up here. Little kids shouldn't be messing around with grown-ups. It could be bad news. I don't really see that as a problem. We're just gonna wash everything away with Gullywash. Unless there's a Pokemon that's like explicitly weak to something else, but I like opening with Gullywash. Gullywash is a good Pokemon. Honestly, it's really reasonably feasible to just go through the whole game with just Squirtle if you felt so inclined, but I'm not that inclined to do that. I like to have a team of different Pokemon, despite how much Gullywash is just gonna be destroying everything right now. I'm steamed! No, my water isn't that hot. Get your facts straight, my guy. All right, we're gonna go through here. This is where I think you're more likely to find Clefairy. I'm not sure if I'm gonna find it, but I might take a couple minutes just to try. If I can't get to where I need to go sooner.
5 minutes later.
Ah, finally! To be relatively fair, Clefairy does have a pretty low encounter rate compared to the other 3. So I'm not too upset that it took me this long to find Clefairy, but still. Okay, so I think we're just gonna chip away at it a little bit with Quick Attack, and let's see where that gets us. Oh my goodness. Like I said, Clefairy is pretty much Jigglypuff, except she's good. Or is it a she? No, it's a he. My bee. I realize it's still in green health, but it has taken some damage and it is paralyzed, so it's not like it's impossible. Pikachu, wake up! Fudge. God bless. Okay, there we go. Took a little more than I thought, but we got it. Clefairy, the fairy Pokemon, even though it is not a fairy type yet. Its adorable appearance makes it popular as a pet. However, it is rare and difficult to find. I'm not going to be giving a nickname to Clefairy, but as always, if you wish to give a nickname to any of my Pokemon, feel free to let me know in the comments, and I will keep it in mind for later when we can change their nicknames. Now, if you excuse me, I need to wake Pikachu up. God bless. Wake it up, and then now it's paralyzed. We're done here. All right, that should be enough for now. Let's go ahead and proceed onward. With this rocket, we, Team Rocket, shall find the fossils. Reviving Pokemon from them will earn us huge riches. Just out of abundance of caution, alright, Toshi, I'm gonna switch you out and bring out the king. Yeah, that's what I thought. Hyper Fake's actually a pretty decent move, so I'm glad that I switched out Raitoshi there. Kick him. One shot again by double kick of all things. Alright, now we can switch in Raitoshi to take care of the Zubat. I'm confident he can take care of that, no problem. Oh, Supersonic! That is not good. Raitoshi's just a victim of all the status ailments today. It is confused, which means that there's a chance that instead of actually using the move that that I ask it to use, it will instead hit itself with a typeless physical attack. It is a relatively fixed power, but if your physical attack set is boosted, then it actually will inflict more damage to you, so be careful. Ugh, now I'm mad. Sweet, I'm glad that you're mad. What is here? We found another moonstone. Pretty nice. Don't have any immediate usage for that, but could still be useful later on. Hey, stop! I found these fossils. They're both mine. Okay, my guy. Super Nerd Miguel would like to battle. Alright, so he's sending out these Grimer, poison-type Pokemon. We're not going to be able to capture Grimer for ourselves for a while, so I'm not going to go over Grimer in detail. It's not particularly great, so I'm not going to worry about it too bad. Its poison gas can be a problem. Poison gas just straight up inflicts poison. Nothing more to it than that. Keeps trying to use Disable, but for some reason it keeps failing, but not going to complain. Like that, Grimer is down, and Raitoshi grew to level 14. And now it is using another poison type in the form of Coughing. This one's better. But like Grimer, we're not going to be able to obtain Coughing for a while, so I'm not going to go over it in explicit detail. Right there, just use Smog. Generic poison type move that inflicts a little damage, but has a good chance of inflicting poison, so it's a bit of a problem. Hey in there, Raitoshi! At least last long enough to get some experience from Coughing. Alright. Now I was about to use Voltorb, and I think for now we're going to switch Raitoshi out, and we're going to switch in Kaiser. Kaiser does not really have an inherent advantage against Voltorb, other than Voltorb, if it knew any electric attacks, they wouldn't be able to do anything to Kaiser. Alright. And Kaiser has grown to level 17. Excellent. And like that, Super Nerd Miguel is taken care of. Okay, I'll share. We'll each take a fossil. No being greedy. Alright, Raitoshi fainted. There we go. Now, there are two fossils that we can take. And like he said, we can only take one. So, first of all is the Dome Fossil. And second off is a wild encounter that ruined the moment. Of course, Clefairy shows up now! Ah, you don't get that. Anyway, the second one is a Helix fossil. And I know what you're all thinking, Lord Helix, yada yada. And you're absolutely right. Okay, but all kidding and well Pokemon encounters aside, I'm going to go with the Helix fossil. What this will do for us is, it's going to be locked away from us for a while, but we're going to take the Helix fossil and we're just going to move on with our lives for now. Alright, then this fossil's mine. Okay, so now that we've gotten that little doodah taken care of, we have found an antidote. That would have been useful a moment ago. And just like that, we are out of Mount Moon and on to Route 4. We're going to proceed just a little further onward. I want to just show these guys off real quick. A punch of roaring ferocity, packed with destructive power. When the chips are down, Mega Punch is the ultimate attack. You agree, yes? Now, let me teach it to your Pokemon. I'm gonna abstain for this from now. A kick of brutal ferocity, packed with destructive power. When you get right down to it, Mega Kick is the ultimate attack. Don't you agree? Okay, I'll teach it to your Pokemon. Okay, so these guys will teach a powerful move, Mega Punch and Mega Kick. We can only teach it to one of your Pokemon one time and one time only, and that's it. And that's part of the reason that I kind of want to hold off on this for now, because there will be other things that I may want to teach Mega Punching, Mega Kick to later that we just don't have available right now. You might think that they would be good on Nidoking, and you'd be right, but Nidoking's actually going to get a better move than Mega Punch later on, like very soon actually. So I want to hold off on that for now. So for the immediate moment, we're just going to walk a little further forward. There isn't too much left in this particular route. We got TMO5 there, Roar. That has negative priority, but it will forcibly switch your opponent's Pokemon out for a different one. So we're just going to hop down these ledges. Welcome to Cerulean City. This is the home of the second gym and our next destination that we're going to be working on. So next time on Pokemon Fire Red version, we're going to continue our adventure by seeing what all Cerulean City and the surrounding area have to offer. See you guys then.